What's up, family? Welcome back to the Stop Sinking Show, where we go from struggle to flow. The thing that I've realized in doing hundreds of episodes is that even though I might have a slight idea of what I want to talk about, or at times I have several ideas in the days leading up to it, but forget to write them down, and then when it comes time to record, I draw a blank. And many times, it's possible I can sit in the quiet and think for several minutes at a time, just combing through my week and conversations I've had and reflections I've made and connections I've made, and hopefully come up with something to talk about that I find helpful or useful. The thing is, I can let hours pass before I record. Or I can decide on something and start brainstorming right away. They say a writer doesn't wait for inspiration, he just writes. Only the hobbyist waits for inspiration. The time isn't usually the factor. Sometimes it can be, I guess, but not usually. Even though I'd like to justify the wasting of the time, usually time is not the determining factor of what happens in that hours passing that leads me to recording or not. Usually, it's just about deciding to tackle the blank page. Let me broaden this to many other areas of life where this plays out. Many times, I myself and many of us are frozen in indecision. Sometimes, we just show up to our life every day without first spending enough time to think about if the activities we are participating in actually lead down the imagined path. And while you're thinking about this, discover the areas you've been unintentional, that you haven't spent enough time thinking about and are just on autopilot. And then deciding to do other activities instead, or gradually shift towards them. The thing I'm trying to get across is, the most important part to stress about this is, it's the deciding. In any area of my life that I have progressed, or in any area of my life that has stagnated, I have tried several strategies to try to continue progress, or ways to break out of stagnation. I've thought about it, analyzed, brainstormed, mind mapped, journaled, self-exploration of every kind. But none of it fills up the blank page. No amount of thinking about what I'm going to talk about here makes the words appear automatically. None of my pondering does that. No matter how much I think I can conjure up solutions in my brain, none of them make any tangible difference in progress. What makes progress is what I do in the physical world, the decisions I make, the actions I take in consequence of those decisions. That's what fills up the page. Never do I know what I will fill up the page with, and if it will be good, worthy, or anything that meets the criteria that I set out with to be helpful or useful. But I don't let the time when I am deciding to fill up the page be the same time that I stop and edit that outflow. The only way to fill up the page is to fill up the page. The only way to progress is to make decisions, scribe your thoughts, make creative choices, go left, go right, go off, or far beyond what you had originally imagined. It doesn't matter. At the least, it is something in the real world. No amount of thought does any tackling of reality. You will find that you have to commit something to paper for something to be formed. Letters turn to words, words to sentences, turn to paragraphs that hopefully turn to coherent thoughts. Passing the length at which a thought could have been held in your mind. The length of a thought could never compare in coherence to the multiple paragraphs you put together when you commit to the page. Only because you dare to commit letters at a time. One decision at a time. This is all of life in a nutshell. None of it can be conjured up in its entirety in thought alone. It must be lived. Decisions must be made, even the ones in error. Terrain must be trekked, potholes hit, jerks felt. All of it. 1 inch, 1 turn, 1 ounce of forward movement at a time. Decisions made, just committed to the blank page of life. Letters formed into words, into sentences. Small actions turned into contributing habits, into routines, into paragraphs and a coherent thesis. Life, well lived, fully lived, actually lived, and still none of it written in stone. Lived differently tomorrow, as long as you tackle the blank page. I love you, family. See you on the next show.